Welcome to the Ohio Valley Sports Vlog Video Podcast NBA edition. I'm BJ.
I'm Cody.
I'm Ian.
Let's open up the Cavaliers. Off to a 2-3 start. They just lost to the Milwaukee Bucks, 109, 104. So far, they've been a typical Mike Brown team. They're last in the league in scoring. I'm sure that went up a little bit with putting up 104 points tonight. But before the game, last in the league in scoring, top 5 in defense. They parlayed that into a couple wins, but there's also been a couple losses. But they've looked solid so far. Ian, have you been impressed by anyone? Or?
Well, obviously this team starts with Kyrie Irving, and you're going to talk about, what he's done for this team. I'm going to talk about what Alonzo G and Dion Waiters have done for this team, because I think they've really kind of stepped up in situations where they needed to contribute more to this team. I think they've done it a lot more in bigger situations now, and I think you're seeing that kind of parlay into it. Obviously giving up 109 points is not something you want to make a nightly habit of, but a Mike Brown coach team isn't going to give up 109 points every night. It's not the way he coaches, it's not the way he operates, it's not the way things are going to be run there. I don't worry too much about this right now. 2-3 start, you can't ask for much more out of a young kind of team like the Cavs have got with them right now.
Right, and I want to point to, right now, as it seems, the Cavaliers 2-0 at home, 0-3 on the road. It's always tough to win on the road in the NBA. Mm-hmm. I just want to point out, in the loss to the Nets, Kyrie had 15 points, 9 assists on 4 of 16 shooting. The assists were there, but everything else wasn't great. They defeated the Nets, at home. Next, they go on the road to the Bobcats. They lose 16 points, 7 assists. Again, not bad, but not what we're used to from Kyrie Irving. And then they go to Indiana and lose. He has 15 and 5. Again, the Pacers aren't a bad team to lose to. And then they defeat the Timberwolves at home. He has 15 points, 6 assists. So he's been consistent this year.
Yeah. But
his field goal shooting percentage has not been great. It's only at 38%. He's averaging about 15 points, 7 assists.
Yeah.
Tonight's game will help. He shot 10 of 20 from the field, 29 points, 8 assists, 5 boards. And that's really, it kind of seems like the way Kyrie plays is the way the team goes.
Yeah.
Yes, Tristan Thompson has stepped up and has been playing pretty good all year. CJ Miles has been big for them. They just got a big boost as they announced that Andrew Bynum will play Friday, and that's really the big signing they had. Ian, you want to talk about Anthony Bennett at all? What are your thoughts?
Well, Anthony, I heralded the pick when it came down because I felt like Anthony Bennett could really be a difference maker for this team. He's got the skill set to be able to really play well at the NBA. And heading into the game tonight, he hadn't made a jump shot all year. For the year he had averaged a half a point a game.
It's a solid stat line.
It's a solid stat line. He's a young guy, and I understand that, but
1 of 5 from the field tonight.
He made a jump shot. He made a jump shot.
So there you go.
There we go. The monkey's off your back now, Anthony. It's time to step up and play like a first-round draft pick.
Probably my biggest concern with Cavaliers so far, though, is Irving. I understand that his field goal percentage is down so far, but his turnovers are coming at an alarming rate.
Yes. He's really not used to. We're not used to seeing him turn the ball over.
No, he's usually a great ball handler, and they're not really a problem for him. So hopefully it's just kind of a mini trend in these first 4 games, and they won't really affect him.
Right. Moving on, the Heat
sitting at 3-2.
3-2. Are you a little surprised, BJ? They're not 4-1, 5-0.
No. They don't have to be. They just have to make the playoffs. But I understand the question. Sure, it's early, but a couple losses, that's not very characteristic of them. But it's not like they've looked bad. LeBron has last night extended his double-digit point streak to 500 games. Bosch missed the game last night for the birth of his daughter. So, you know, as long as they're healthy come April, May, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's not that the chemistry's not there, but they did add a couple more pieces. They lost Mike Miller. They bring in Beasley, Odin. So I think you're right. I think it'll just take some time for them to gel. And when you have LeBron James and D Wade on your roster, even Chris Bosh, you make the playoffs, you have a fighting chance. Now talking about another superstar that has returned, the Chicago Bulls. Are you kind of surprised that they're starting in? They haven't. I mean, everybody said wait till D Rose gets back. We're a title contender again, and they really haven't started out all that great this year.
No, just sitting at 1-3 after their first 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's Derrick Rose. I don't care what they say. Does anybody here really believe that he's entirely back from that knee injury? Does anybody? I mean, I don't. I'm not buying it.
I don't.
I don't know. I'll say this. I don't know if it's that he's not entirely back physically, because he's obviously entirely back physically. I think mentally he's not entirely back into it.
I'm with you on that. It just doesn't feel like.
I just don't feel like he's confident in his game yet, and I don't feel like he's confident in what he can do on the floor,
Right,
which is surprising to me, because I feel like he's one of the most consistently confident and consistently better players in the league.
Right, but with a player like him being gone for a long period of time, when you carry all the offensive load for your team, it's gonna take you a while to adjust. It's good that he came back so early this season because as much as fans clamor for him to come back in the playoffs last year, is this what you would have wanted?
No.
To take a red hot Nate Robinson out of the starting point guard role, to put in Derrick Rose, who would just play like this. So I think that he knew a little bit more than we did. Like he said, you don't know unless it's your own body. Like you've said, you've had knee injuries. Unless you're that person, you can't say. Sure, there's a timetable, but you're not that person. You don't know how much pain they feel.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like as the season goes on, he'll regain his form, and you'll see Derrick Rose and the Bulls really contend in the Eastern Conference.
And on Derrick Rose, when they lost in Miami, he had 12 points, 4 assists on 4-15 shooting. They go home to the next day, win 82-81. He has 18 points, 3 assists on 7-23 shooting. But he did hit a game-winning shot, which is always nice to see. Then they lose to the 76ers, 107-104. He has 13 and 2. Tonight,
at this point, losing to the 76ers isn't that bad of a loss.
Not
right now.
Not right now, at least. Then they lose at Indiana, 97-80, and he has 17 points, 2 assists on 6 of 15. So he's averaging
to come back.
He's averaging about 14 points, 3 assists, but he's only this performance tonight will help. But at the moment, he's only shooting 36%, which.
And you'd like to see him facilitate a little bit more.
Right. That's alarming.
He doesn't have
the points are so, but for him to only his best game is 4 assists. Man, I know Chris Paul will get that in 3 minutes of a game.
Right, and it's not like Rose has the greatest offensive supporting cast around him, but it's not like he's playing with scrubs. I mean,
surely better.
He has Dang, Boozer, Noah, so he should be averaging a little bit more than 3 assists per game.
Yeah. Moving on to the next team that we're going to talk about here, the train wreck right now that is the Boston Celtics. They lost again tonight. They're now 0-4 on the season. And really, it's really not Jeff Green's fault. He's the guy with Rondo not coming back yet. He's not in the lineup yet. He's the guy that they're going to lean on. He's averaging so far 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on 46% shooting. So he's been playing well. It's really not his fault that they're losing. He's doing his part. But, I mean, a game against the Pistons where they lost 87-77, he only had 3 points on 3 of 5 shooting. He has to get the ball. He has to shoot more than that. I'm not saying he needs to put up 25 shots a game, but you can't only have 7 points on 5 shots when you're the guy.
Yeah. No, and it's not surprising that they're 0-4. They've decided to go with a complete overhaul, which it was just a matter of time as to when that was going to happen. Because you could only go on one last great run with KG and Paul Pierce so many times before you just needed to move on for your organization. So moving on a new direction, trading away Doc Rivers, trading away Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, hiring Brad Stevens, a young coach. They're they're preparing for the future. This is going to be a rough year for the Celtics, but it's going to be interesting to see. You see so many college coaches go to the NBA game, but not a lot of them are successful. So you'd like to see Brad Stevens become a successful member of
Right,
the NBA.
I take that back. They did defeat the Jazz tonight to get their first win. They won 97-87 over the Jazz to give Brad Stevens his first career NBA victory. But still, it puts him at 1-3. Still not impressive. But in that game, Jeff Green again had another good game with 18 points. You're seeing him finally develop into the potential that he had. When he was in Oklahoma City, he had flashes of it, but now in Boston,
And
when he's the main guy,
how good does Boston look in that trade now? I mean, the Thunder have Perkins, but he hasn't really been that post presence that they've needed. He hasn't really given that consistent post play. And Jeff Green's blossoming into what could become a superstar.
yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely showing signs of being a superstar. He's still young. When they get Rondo back,
That's what I'm thinking. Once Rajon Rondo comes back to that lineup, that's a completely different team.
I mean, I don't.
Their starting point guard tonight was Jordan Crawford. Hold your oohs and ahs.
Yeah, so I think with Rondo getting back, I don't know if it puts them into the playoffs.
No, I don't think they're a playoff team.
A more
But they're not.
competitive
They're not
team
an.
for sure.
They're not an embarrassment.
No.
All right, we're gonna play a game. We're gonna play contender pretender. BJ and Ian, we'll start with the Eastern Conference. I'll give you the name, and without thinking about it real quick, just off what your gut feeling to make the playoffs, because we all know the Heat are gonna win the
Right.
East. So 76ers at 3-1, contender or pretender?
Pretender.
I gotta say pretender.
I'm with you on that one. It's a nice story. It's a good start for them.
Right, but they're a team that you thought up there with Boston as rigging for Wiggins.
So,
And so far they're 3-1, but they'll fall back to the pack.
Toronto Raptors off to a 2-2 start. Contender pretender up there with Rudy Gay.
Contender. In the Eastern Conference, when you have a player like Rudy Gay, a decent supporting cast around him, I mean, you could get the 7th or the 8th seed in the East. I wouldn't say a title contender, but definitely a playoff contender.
Yeah. Well, they went to 2-3 tonight, but still.
Right.
I say pretender because Vince Carter isn't there anymore, and I love Vince Carter.
Oh, that's how far.
That's how far back my basketball knowledge is.
Yes. Okay. The New Jersey Nets at 2-2. Contender, pretender.
Absolute contender. They have one of the best starting fives in the NBA. They're not terribly deep on the bench, but when you're that good in your starting five, you don't really have to be.
Brooklyn,
I'm sorry. I changed the name. Jesus.
Contender, Jay-Z.
Okay. Look at Ian go. The New York Knicks off to a 1-3 start. Contender or pretender?
Pretender. I wasn't really sure what they were doing with the really odd Toronto trade when they picked up Andre Bargnani. I just don't really know what direction they're going in. But one thing Carmelo Anthony has proven in his almost 10 years in the league is that he's not good enough to carry a team. Sure, I mean, he'll carry them to 40, 45 wins, but he's not going to carry them in the postseason, which is what you want your franchise player to do.
Right. He's always been a scorer, but he's never really been like the go-to guy in the playoffs. So I'm going to say a pretender. Ian?
Contender because I love the name Knickerbockers.
Okay.
This is just fantastic commentary.
I don't know why they're on here. The Indiana Panthers advanced to 5-0. Obviously, contender.
Oh, serious contender.
They're
about the only team I think.
right.
In the
I
East
mean,
is gonna be able to contend with the Heat.
The Heat's biggest contention.
Red,
Yeah.
I think.
The Cavaliers sitting at 2-3. Contender, pretender.
Once again, almost just like the Raptors, young team, nice supporting cast. It could be about a 7 or 8 in the East, playoff contender.
Ian?
Contender.
Yeah. Okay.
Contender. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry.
You're doing fine, Ian.
All you have to
We're-
do is say contender, pretender. You don't have to have extensive knowledge.
Listen,
Okay.
we're gonna make Ian a basketball fan by the time this is over the season. You know what? As bad as I don't want to say this, I'm gonna say pretender only because I think there's still some pieces away and a year away. The big question mark is Bynum, so we'll see. The Detroit Pistons at 2-2. They had a big off season with Josh Smith coming in and Brandon Jennings. They're off to a good start. Contender, pretender.
Pretender.
Contender.
All right, I'm with Ian on this one. Brandon Jennings changes scenery. Josh Smith changes scenery. I think they could at least get a 7 seed. Contender. Chicago Bulls at now 2-3.
Contender. They're right up there with Indiana as one of Miami's biggest threats. Once they get rolling, once D Rose is comfortable, once they get rolling, they'll be a contender, and I expect them to get the 2 or 3 seed in the Eastern Conference.
I'll say contender too. I just feel like there's too much talent on that team for them to not make a run at the playoffs.
And I'll say contender. When you have D Rose and once he gets comfortable, they'll be all right. This is the surprising one.
This is about the only thing I've been right on thus far.
Yes. The Orlando Magic, fresh off their 98-90 victory over the Clippers, are sitting at 3-2. Contender, pretender, BJ.
Pretender. They might be off to a solid start, but they're a team that is at least a year or two away. I really like the Oladipo pick this year. I felt like he was one of the most solid players in the draft. If you want scoring, that's who you should have gone to in the draft. But just not yet. So I'm gonna have to say pretender.
I'll say contender only because I picked them to make the playoffs when we started talking about the NBA.
You better stick to that pick.
I'm
boy.
going to.
I'm gonna say pretender. They have pieces, but they're not all there yet. Another good draft this year. I think they could get there. The Atlanta Hawks, they are sitting at 2-2. Contender, pretender, BJ.
I don't know. I mean, even when the Atlanta Hawks.
Push.
Okay, I'll go with pretender. But even when the Atlanta Hawks were contenders, they were never big contenders. They were we'll get about the 5th seed and we'll lose in the first round, and that's about the extent of it. And then losing Josh Smith, so I'm gonna have to go with pretender.
I'll say pretender. Just I have no reason why I'm going to say pretender. I just say pretender.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? The Kid Gilchrist and Kemba Walker and even Gerald Henderson.
I think we're talking about the.
I'm sorry. We're talking about the Hawks. That's the next one. I'm gonna say pretender. They lost too much and they never really were good. Now,
Charlotte Bobcats.
The Charlotte Bobcats just beat Toronto tonight, 92-90, and they're sitting at 3-2. I don't think I saw this one coming.
I'm gonna go with contender.
Just for the reasons I just named.
Yeah, like you just said. I mean, they have a lot of young talent. I feel like their young nucleus takes a step forward together this year, and they make the playoffs.
I'll say pretender because in my limited basketball knowledge, I know that the Charlotte Bobcats have always been bad, and I'm just going to stick true to that because I'm stubborn and I don't like change.
Yeah, just like with the Magic, I'm going to say pretender because I think they're a year away. They have all that young talent that's getting better. But I think there's some other teams in the East that are just a little better. Let's move on to the Western Conference in this one. This one might just shock everybody. The Phoenix Suns beat the Spurs tonight 96-95 and have improved to 4-1 on the season. I know it's only 5 games, but contender or pretender, BJ?
No, I'll take pretender in the Western Conference. Bledsoe's really looked good for them. That was a nice trade to pick him up. But the Western Conference is just too deep.
I'll say pretender because my ridiculous reason that I'm going to pull out of my rear end is because Steve Nash doesn't play there anymore.
I think that's a
That's
ridiculous
solid.
reason. I think that's
That
a very
is
solid
solid.
reason.
The Lakers are sitting at 2-3. Contender, pretender, BJ?
Pretender. Nope. They
Okay.
were bad last year with Dwight Howard. They don't have Dwight Howard now. He's one of the best centers in the NBA. Sure, he didn't really fit into that system, but no.
Okay.
Contender because I still believe in Kobe Bryant.
I'm with Ian on this one. When you have Kobe Bryant and you start out 2-3 without him, you bring him back. I think they could fight for that eighth seed. Next team we're going to go to the Houston Rockets are 4-1. BJ.
Absolute contenders. There are a lot of people's pick for the Western Conference. I could see them winning the West. A really solid team. You have Jeremy Lin, James Harden, Chandler Parsons, who's a really good three-point specialist. You're kind of missing a true power forward. But then Dwight Howard, I mean, down low, just shores that all up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say contender. Ian?
I'll say contender too. I just like
Alright.
the move they've made with Harden and Lin and getting Howard.
Right. The Mavs, they're currently playing Oklahoma City. They're down 3, close to halftime, but they're sitting at 3-1 on the season. BJ?
Pretender.
Okay.
Maybe a contender. I'll go. You know what? I'll go with contender. Dirk Nowitzki is still one of the best power forwards in the NBA. The addition of Monta Ellis was really nice.
Dallin Bear as well.
Dallin Bear, when Dwight Howard, when Dirk Nowitzki has a true center to play with, it really expands his role, being able to be a power forward.
I'll say contender because I feel like, you know what, I'll just say it. Mark Cuban's my favorite owner in sports.
Yeah, I'm going to say contender as well, just because of all the moves they made. And they've been out of it for a while, so I think they're going to get back to it.
They were close last year, though.
Yeah, they were close, but okay, the Grizzlies sitting at 2-3. BJ?
I'll go with contender. I really liked them as a team a couple years ago. They made some noise in the playoffs. It feels like I know their coach Lionel Hollins left, but with Mike Conley, I really like them as a team.
Ian?
Contender.
You know, I'm going to go when you still have Zach Randolph. I think that's a contender. The Timberwolves lost tonight. Now they're at 3-2. BJ?
Contender. I think their young talent's coming together.
Ian?
Contender.
I'm going to say pretender. I think they're still a year or so away. The Trailblazers are sitting at 2-2.
Pretender.
Ian?
Contender.
I'm going to say pretender. They really don't have the talent there. And then finally, kind of a surprising, if you follow basketball, the Denver Nuggets are sitting at 0-3. BJ, can they turn around, or are they just kind of done for the year?
I will go. I'll say contender.
Pretender.
George Karl just always does a heck of a job with the talent and everybody they have. So I'm going to say they're going to turn around and be a contender this year.
Okay. That wraps up our NBA podcast for the week. Thanks for watching, everybody.